Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Gentrio Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jacob Murphy. And today we have a very special solo podcast episode where I thought it would be interesting to discuss some of the myths that I've commonly heard about estate planning, being a younger millennial from some of my other younger millennial, older Gen Z friends, and just break down, what truly are the misconceptions about the estate planning world from my point of view, being the host of this podcast. So let's just jump right into it. The first myth that I hear most often is that I don't need an estate plan because I don't have many assets. And this really is a common misconception because estate planning isn't just about distributing your assets. It's about ensuring that your wishes are carried out in various scenarios. Estate planning is not just a will. Most people think estate planning is just your will. It's what happens to your stuff after you pass away. But it also covers various scenarios like incapacity, unexpected emergencies, and even if you don't have significant assets now, planning now can save your loved ones from unnecessary stress and confusion. When people say they don't have many assets, I like to really turn the mirror towards them and ask them to reflect on this, because you may not have assets that are of high value, but you do have assets. Anything you own, if you're someone my age, you probably have a car, computer, maybe a video game console. These things are still assets that you would want in the worst case scenario that you pass away to go to someone who you care about. And that needs to be reflected in an estate plan. And on the flip side, what I more importantly like to point out to people is that an asset does not have to be something that is of high monetary value. Think about things like photo albums or things that you own that may not be super expensive or high worth, but they really hold a special place in your heart and will probably be special to your family to have if something were to happen to you. So, again, this isn't something that you want to leave up to the courts to decide. And I always tell people, regardless of what you think you don't have, it's important to be grounded in reality and look at what you actually do have and say, how would I feel? How would other people feel if all this stuff just got spread around to people? And I find that a lot of my friends will take this to heart and they'll realize, I do have some assets, and it is important to make sure they go to the right people. But like I said earlier, it's also not just about money. It's about being prepared for the future and having your wishes upheld. Myth number 2, I'm too young to think about estate planning. This kind of goes hand in hand with not having many assets, but at its core, age really isn't the determining factor for why you need an estate plan. It's being prepared for the unknown. Accidents, illness, they can happen to anyone, and unfortunately at any age. And having a document like a healthcare proxy or a power of attorney in place really give you that peace of mind to make sure that your wishes, again, are going to be honored and upheld. We all saw COVID struck. We really weren't prepared for that, and that affected everyone regardless of how old you were. And, the one number that I will point out for estate planning is being 18, because before you're 18, you have your parents or your legal guardian who can make choices on your behalf without the need of a legal document. But once you turn 18, if something happens to you, like say COVID was to strike your college campus and you had to be put on a ventilator, you were incapacitated, your parents can't just come in and tell the doctors, what you want or make medical decisions on your behalf. They need to have a healthcare proxy to do this. Doesn't matter that they're your parents. You're a legal adult. You're over the age of 18. So having these documents in place can save a whole lot of time. It can save money, having to go to court, the lawyer fees, all that stuff is just avoided if you just put this simple document in place. Back when COVID did hit, a lot of college campuses were requiring students to come back to campus with a healthcare proxy for this exact reason. And it just comes back to being prepared for the future, being planning ahead. And it's important to make sure that your wishes for whatever that is, or your healthcare directives, your finance, making sure that if something happens to you, your finances can still be, cannot be interrupted. It's all something that can be swiftly covered in your estate plan. And if you don't do it, so much time and money are wasted. And even if you can get through that aspect of failed estate planning, there's still no guarantee that your wishes are upheld because it's no longer in your hands. Myth number 3, Estate planning is only for married couples and parents. While it is true that it is particularly important for married couples and parents to have estate plans, estate planning, we say this all the time, is for everyone, regardless of your marital status or parental situation. Single individuals need to know, just as much as married individuals, who is going to make decisions on their behalf if they're incapacitated. It's about taking control of your future. It's about being prepared. And I think one of the important things that people don't think about when it comes to having this mindset is that, we don't live, unfortunately, in a fairy tale world where families are always 100% of the time happy and well off. There are situations where couples get divorced. There's situations where parents and the children don't get along and they fight, and there could be some, separation. They don't talk anymore. And if you don't explicitly express your wishes in an estate plan, then maybe that child who you don't talk to anymore, who you've had a falling out with, they're still going to receive a portion of your assets, which you may not want. Just because you divorce someone does not necessarily mean that they're out of your estate plan. So you need to be able to express your wishes specifically in your estate plan. It's important to have your estate plan figured out. And then as you hit these milestones in life, you already have your basis structured there that you can build off of. It makes things easier, empowers you to have decisions made already. And then all you have to do is reflect on them and see if that document you're holding still reflects your values and wishes. Myth number 4, and this is one of my favorite ones, estate planning is too expensive. I would say in the past, I would actually believe this myth, that estate planning is too expensive. We've had our founders of Gentrio on the podcast before, and both of them have talked about how when they did estate planning for their parents, it cost $10,000 to do it, just for that one time. And like I said, estate planning should really be a living document that grows with you. And you should, most of the time you'll hear that you should update your estate plan every 2 years. And then on top of that, every time you hit a milestone, like having a kid or getting divorced or getting married, whatever. So imagine having to pay, let's say, just for a figure, it would be $3,000 for a will. Every couple of years, you're updating that will. On top of that, things happen in your life where you now feel the need to update that will again. That money can really add up. And that's why I love working for Gentrio, because we really make it affordable. $150 for your first purchase and then $50 every year after as the subscription fee really does seem worth it to me, to have unlimited, truly unlimited access to updating, creating new documents, all that good stuff. If you think about it, you can go out to dinner tonight and spend $50. Imagine not going out to dinner and instead your entire year's worth of estate planning tools are covered. They're in your pocket for use whenever you want. I could create a brand new will every single day, a healthcare proxy every hour, and it wouldn't cost me more than that $50, which makes it, just in perspective like that, it feels like things become very affordable with tools like Gentrio. On the flip side of things, I will say, even with traditional estate planning, not having a plan in place feels far more costly than the cost that it takes to create that plan in the first place. Without an estate plan, as I've mentioned before, you end up in probate. You have lengthy, costly trials, lawyer fees, and not even monetary expenses, but the time that it takes, time that a lot of people don't have if you're in a crisis situation. So to me, it seems like with the tools that we have in modern day estate planning, it's no longer too expensive, and it's all the more worth it to do. And it's an investment in peace of mind. Even if you want to do it the traditional way, that's an investment. It's an investment you're making in protecting your legacy. And as I mentioned, the downsides of not doing it far exceed the cost of getting it done. The fifth and final myth that I'll talk about is one that I get a lot when I tell people about what I do here at Gentrio and what we do as a company. And that's the concept around do-it-yourself estate plans, online templates. I think when people think about online estate planning templates, they think about Googling, will template and just taking that and trying their best to fill it out to make it specific for their wishes, which compared to the traditional way of doing estate planning and going to talk to a lawyer, it may be a convenient starting point, but there are far more downsides to doing that than working with a company like Gentrio or going and doing traditional estate planning with a lawyer. For example, most, if not all, of those online templates that you'd find just from Googling, they don't account for your unique circumstances and, more importantly, your state laws. Each state has specific laws that need to be applied to your estate plan to make sure it's legally binding and your wishes will be upheld. With Gentrio, we're not a law firm, but we were created by lawyers to make sure that every document you create is state-specific to you and tailor-made to uphold your wishes and make sure we capture every single aspect of your estate plan that needs to be considered when creating these documents. So it's really important to understand that if you don't want to take the traditional route of estate planning, which I truly think is outdated at this point, it's really important to come to a company like Gentrio so that you know you're in the right hands to have these really crucial documents made correctly and state specifically. The fact of the matter is, with companies like Gentrio, there's no need to take the risk of trying to find some template you can use to try to create an estate plan. We have the tools that you need. We make it affordable. It's accessible. It comes with all the other essentials of estate planning, like a secure place to store it, a truly proper way to share your estate plan so those who need to have it accessible can have it in a crisis situation. So I guess my rebuttal to this myth would be that while these do-it-yourself templates do exist, it's not worth cutting the corners, especially with tools like Gentrio out there. So these are probably the most common myths that I run into, and I think to summarize everything I've gone over today is just the fact that estate planning really is for everyone. It's not just for older people, it's not for people who have gazillions of dollars in their pocket, it's for everyone, and it's not just for when you die. It is a living document that needs to grow with you and change as your life changes, and with tools like Gentrio, it's as simple as it's ever going to be. Don't let these misconceptions hold you back from protecting your future and the ones you love. It really is important. It's worth doing. Protect your legacy. Leave a legacy, not a mess. As always, I'm your host, Jacob Murphy. I appreciate everyone listening in, and we'll talk to you next time.